Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Spooky Soup podcast. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Tessa.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome to the soup.
So, I have some good, scary Reddit stories for you today. Are you prepared to be spooked?
Yeah.
And are you prepared as the viewer with some soup? We're just going to kick this one off. Let's just get going on this one because I'm pretty excited to tell my Reddit stories today. So, this first one, it's called Body Bag by a Reddit user, So-nora.
Like body bag with a question mark?
Yes.
Okay.
Just today, while I was hanging out at a buddy's place, we somehow got into a discussion about one of his former jobs. The work that he did there involved working with huge trash piles that were about to be totally compacted and disposed of. The bay he worked on was where people from the local community came to unload their garbage. As my buddy told it, one evening close to the end of his shift, an older man pulled in to unload. And just to kind of like picture it, I'm thinking of the old guy from Monster House, if you remember that movie.
Mr. Nevercracker?
Mr. Nevercracker.
Yeah.
His wife was like...
The house.
The house, exactly.
Spoiler.
Yeah. It's not a spoiler. If you haven't seen that movie, come on. According to my buddy, the old guy was kind of scary and just plain creepy. Now, my buddy isn't skittish by any means. He is at least 6 feet tall and at least 250 pounds. So yeah, he's definitely not a chicken or anything. Anyways, the creepy old guy proceeded to start unloading his garbage from the back of his old beat-up pickup truck. What he was unloading appeared to my buddy to be two large black contractor trash bags, taped together at the two openings to form a longer enclosed bag. My buddy watched as the old guy picked up the large black plastic wrap package. He picked it up and carried it much like how one would carry a bride over the threshold. The package seemed to be awkward, floppy, and limp. He watched as the old man rolled and heaved his mysterious package over the edge of the bay and into the garbage pit. Then my buddy noticed that the limp package was about the right size for an adult human body. Out of cautious curiosity, my buddy turned to the old man and asked him what was in the bags. The old man's answer chilled him to his bones. The creepy old man told him with a dead serious tone and expression, "Well, son, it's a dead body."
Oh, no. Oh, I don't like it.
With his mouth agape, my buddy couldn't do anything but watch as the old man got back into his truck and calmly drove away from the trash pit. As soon as the old guy was gone, my buddy stopped the tractor from scooping the trash pile in the bay so he could look and see what was in the black bags. Unfortunately, though, it was a big company in the small area and they had a lot of strict rules and regulations for the employees to follow. One of those main rules was that the employees were not allowed to open any bags or containers for any reason. So he never did find out what was in the bags, but he's sure never going to forget how creepy and scary that was.
Okay, I would want to know.
I would, yeah, exactly. Like, screw my job. I'm jumping down there to see if it's a body.
Oh, my God.
Well, at least, tell your supervisor or something.
Yeah, the guy just admitted to him having a body in the bag.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you call the cops?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, this guy literally just told me he's dumping a dead body, so I'm going to call the police, okay?
Nah, man, those rules.
Those rules. He's not a rule breaker. He's a good Eagle Scout. That wasn't creepy. It was more along the lines of just curiosity, I guess. For that story.
Morbid curiosity.
Yeah, morbid curiosity.
Gross.
Yeah. Especially the way that he said that the old man lifted it out like he was carrying a bride over the threshold.
Yeah, I didn't like that comparison.
Yeah.
No.
Because, okay, it could just be like a bag of jelly that...
Jelly?
I don't know. He made too much Jell-O and no one wanted it, so he just took it to the dump.
Yeah, let's just assume it's expired tortilla
Gross.
chips.
Okay. Yep. All right. So that's story number one.
That was pretty good. I'm
Thank
ready.
you. Thank you.
For the next one.
So I have one more story, and then you have one story today, right?
I do.
One historic story.
One historical story.
Okay.
But it's local.
Okay.
It's a creepy local story.
Good. I like that you're keeping it local. That's awesome. You know way more about the scary history of Utah than I do, or the mysterious. But okay, we'll get to your story soon. Now on to my next story. This one is called The Casket by Reddit user Panterium. Okay. I was 17 years old when this happened, and it still bothered me till this day. I use it as a scary story to tell friends, and it gets them every time. But they don't know it's a true story. My family has always been in the business of death. My great-grandfather was a mortician, and somewhere along the tree, that turned us into a funeral home operator. There's money to be made from the dead, but in a good way. A scary, morbid job, but someone has to do it. We always lived in this small town in the North Dakota area, almost a secluded kind of place surrounded by a ring of trees and wilderness for miles. It's a nice town, which is made up by rich folk, and was always a clean and friendly place. My father, who owned the place, and would be eventually passed down to me since my older sister moved away and wanted nothing to do with the family business. The dead bodies, they never really bothered me because it was always a curiosity to me.
It's normal to him, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, whatever. I mean, you're surrounding your life around it. I would hope you'd be curious. One Sunday night, as I was having dinner with my mom and dad in front of the TV, I could see lights shining across the wall coming from the driveway. Dad, Tom's here. Tom was the guy who would bring the bodies, usually, but this time he was with someone new. And I thought it was just a trainee since Tom was getting kind of old. My dad goes down to the garage, aka the loading bay, where he would take the bodies and use a small freight elevator which would lead to the basement. But this time, when I looked out the window, I see my dad and Tom talking, along with who I thought was a trainee. My dad usually only crosses his arms when he is concerned or disagrees with something, and I instantly knew something was off. So kind of set the background. It sounds like their home is the mortuary. So so they live in the mortuary.
Okay.
Creepy.
So kind of like a Sabrina Spellman setup.
Pretty much.
Cool.
Okay. There were numerous times I would help my dad prep a body for viewing, but as I came down the stairs, I see him wheeling down the hall, the body, but it was wrapped in a black bag, and as I turned, he looks at me in the eye, and he says, "This one's on me, son. Sit this one out. Maybe next time." I nodded my head and watched him wheel into the back, and the door shut behind him. My mom calls for me from the top of the stairs. "Junior, you got homework to do, don't you?" "Yeah, Mama, I'm right on it." I went to my room to do my homework, as I was told, and maybe sometime around 9-ish, I fell asleep at my desk. I later woke up around 2 a.m. with my papers sticking to my face, groggy-eyed, and my head was definitely spinning. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my water bottle, and that's when my light started to flicker. It would happen before, but when my dad would use only certain types of tools in the basement. This time, it was more intense. It was just worse than before. I tapped my finger on the light bulb on my desk, but it was still the same effect. Leaning back and stretching in my chair, followed by a brief yawn, I finished my bottle of water and was thinking that I was still thirsty and maybe wanted a colder one. I make my way out of my bedroom and down the hallway, slowly down the stairs as to not disturb my mom's sleep, and knew Dad was probably still in the basement working. Walking down the stairs, I could faintly hear a banging, kind of shuffling sound, thinking maybe it was my cat or dog, but I distinctly remember the cat being in my room and the dog usually is sleeping with my mom. I turn the corner away from the stairs, and I see the chapel door slightly open. Slowly, taking steps ahead and down the hall, I can see the kitchen light on, but my curiosity got the best of me. I slowly approach the chapel entrance and can see the dim lights on and down the aisle. I see the casket shaking, side to side, slightly jumping, which was pretty unusual. My heart started to pound with a sudden great fear hitting me like a cold wind, chilling me to the bone. My hand shook and breathing got heavy. I watched the casket shake, and the more I looked at it, the more violent it appeared to get. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I never saw anything like that before, obviously. And that's when I felt hands on my shoulders spin me around. It was my dad. "Get upstairs now. Don't look back. Go into your mother's room and lock the door." He pushed me hard towards the steps, and I see him walk into the chapel, closing the doors behind him. The banging sounds just got louder and louder. I run upstairs, and my mom is standing at the top, and we both run into the master bedroom, closing the door and locking it. I sat with her on the bed, wondering what was going to happen, and I was texting a few of my friends who were late-night people. 7 a.m. came around, and I heard a car pulling up, and it was Tom. I see my dad coming out from the loading dock, pushing the shaking casket, which by then had settled down. My dad and Tom yelling at one another, and they load up the body in the back of the truck, and off Tom went. Soon after, my dad came up the stairs, and my mom is still asleep in her bed, holding her pillow. I opened the door to see my dad leaning on the hallway wall. Dad, what was that? What happened? I see sweat dripping down the side of his face and a fear within him that I never thought I would ever see. He wipes his brow and lets out a shaky sigh. My dad said the following: a girl in town came back from a vacation and she started to feel ill for some strange reason, but it turns out there was something off about her type of sickness. For a few weeks, she started to suddenly talk to herself, talk to someone who wasn't with her, showing signs of aggression and paranoia. No one knew what was going wrong, so a priest was called, and turns out she was possessed by a demon. For 3 weeks, they tried around the clock to expel what was inside her, but it just wouldn't leave, no matter what they tried. Eventually, she died during her last exorcism. It choked her to death. She was gone, but somehow the demon didn't leave her body. At night, it would shake within the girl's body, and it would cause some sort of manifestation or something like that. For a few hours, the body shakes violently. I couldn't handle it, and so I called Tom to pick up the body and take it somewhere else. I don't know where it's going next, but I know for sure that thing is still in that body. And to me, I think it wants out. When I was working on her, I felt like something was hovering over me the whole time. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. I started hearing noises coming from the fridge container where the other bodies lie. I wrapped her in plastic and laid her in a casket, hoping nothing would happen, but she shook. No matter what I did, it wouldn't stop shaking. Even weighing it down did nothing. Tom came and picked her up, and I could care less where it's going as long as it's out of here. Just hearing all that from my dad, one of the toughest people I know, I saw him once fight 3 guys at a street barbecue with a stab wound and still keep swinging. I've seen him walk almost painless with a broken arm with little to no reaction, but seeing how much this really bothered him really bothered me. I never found out where the girl's body was taken or what happened. I still wonder to this day, and like I said before, it scares me. I at times get paranoid that I'll someday have one of these experiences myself. I do run the funeral home, and now I have my son, who is nearly 16, who is curious about the business, but I don't think I could get him to ever help me like I helped my dad. Just can't help but wonder what was in that girl's body, and why did it refuse to leave after several exorcisms? I'll never know, and kind of want to know, but going through that type of experience is a one-time thing for me. I hope.
I hope so too.
Oof. That's a story.
Yeah, like, oh.
So yeah, that's something else.
That one made me uncomfortable.
Right?
Like, I don't know.
So the reason why this story was so freaky to me is because I have a good buddy of mine that I grew up with. He lived in Logan, Utah. He grew up there before he moved to our hometown, and he lived in one of those homes.
That's right. Yeah.
So
I remember.
So I went. Yeah. So long after that, he and I went to Utah State to go visit to see if we wanted to go to college there and stuff. And so he's like, guys, you guys got to check on my creepy old childhood home. And so we were able to go look at it. No one was living in it at the time. But we went inside, and sure enough, like you walk in, and actually we snuck in through the basement. So the basement door, it was 2 doors that open, so big enough for like you to carry a casket through with some people, multiple people on each
Rolling
side.
a table.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you walk in, if I remember, to the right were these big shelves for putting the caskets on, so you could have multiple bodies there. And then on the other side of that wall was a room completely tiled from floor to ceiling with a drain in the middle. So
the drain.
yeah. So this
No.
exactly. So this was a legit mortuary, pretty much, and they lived there. That was their home. They didn't operate it as a mortuary. They just lived there.
Oh, so like on the casket shelves, they just had like pots and pans.
Just regular storage.
Yeah.
You know, you could probably sleep on it if you wanted to. But yeah, you go upstairs. It wasn't really like a chapel or anything. It was more just like a viewing area. So it's like you would just go view the body, and then you would take him out to somewhere else, like the cemetery. So, yeah, it was creepy. So like I was thinking of his home the whole time I was reading this, and I was like, oh my gosh, like just putting me in that situation was so freaky. But
yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, and no wonder no one was living there, because it really was very, very creepy. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't blame him.
The house is probably demolished. Let's be honest.
Let's hope.
Right. So yeah, those are my stories.
Good job this week. Those are really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, both made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Am uncomfortable.
I hear you have a very scary story today. Or at least scary historical story.
I guess, yeah, it's pretty freaky.
Okay.
Because it's local. It happened. You can find it online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
All right. So my story today is about the Fear Factory.
Ooh.
And I know you know what this is, but our audience might not. So Fear Factory is this place in Salt Lake. As of now, it's running and it's operated as a haunted house attraction. Yep. But it was at one point a real working factory.
Yep.
All right. So whenever you're on I-15 and you're driving past Salt Lake City, you can't miss it. It's right next to the freeway, and it's just covered in graffiti, but like well-placed graffiti. More like murals, I guess.
Well, they I think the graffiti that's on it, though, is on purpose to make it look like a haunted attraction.
Yeah.
So.
Because it's like paintings of corpses and people hanging from the ceiling.
There's like a big dude's face that's like all burned, like screaming at you on one of the silos.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you can't miss it.
Yep.
It is tucked away conveniently on 666 West, 800 South, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Of course it is.
What a convenient address.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the late 1800s, this place was first opened. It was called the Portland Cement Works Factory of Salt Lake. Mm-hmm. It was very prominent back then. It was this huge manufacturing facility, and it attracted workers from all over the state. Now, back then, safety precautions didn't really exist in this kind of work environment, so companies got away with a lot of stuff that they probably shouldn't have.
Right.
And this is where our story starts. So, in my research, I dug up a little newspaper clipping, and it was dated Friday, November 23rd, 1900. This is how old this is.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the title. Violent Fate of George Howe, employee of Portland Cement Company, killed in shocking manner, caught in the shaft, his arm is torn from his body, and with a scream of agony, he sinks down and expires. If that doesn't catch your attention, I don't know what will.
Great headline.
Great headline.
Sad, but great headline.
So here's what the article said. George Howe, an employee of the Portland Cement Company, had his left arm torn from his body by a revolving shaft yesterday afternoon. With a scream of agony, he sank down upon the coal tank and expired. No one witnessed the ghastly spectacle, and when Superintendent Blythe heard the scream, he ran with alarm into the room, and the lifeless and almost naked form of Howe, with his severed arm close behind him, was laying there. Howe was engaged in running the coal crusher, and it's supposed that he had ascended a ladder to oil the machinery. While doing so, his sleeve was caught by the shaft. So, I found another newspaper clipping, and this was dated July 31st, 1903. So almost 3 years after this first incident with George.
Gotcha.
So here's the title. His life was crushed out. Frank Holmes torn nearly to pieces in revolving shaft. One of his arms cut off, leg and jaw broken, dies of his injuries.
That's the title?
That's the title.
That's a catching title. It's long, but
I know.
It was okay.
I wonder if it's the same.
It's probably the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what it said. While engaged in oiling machinery at the works of the Portland Cement Company yesterday afternoon, Frank Holmes was caught in a revolving shaft and mutilated so badly that he died early last evening. His left arm was torn off, same as George Howe.
Mm-hmm.
His right leg was fractured and bones of his jaw were broken. The accident occurred shortly after 2 o'clock. At the time, Holmes, who was employed as the company oiler, was busy about the crusher with his oil can. There was a large revolving shaft in that vicinity, and it's thought that he was oiling it, probably just making it run smoothly. He apparently leaned his arm on the shaft and got it caught in one of the flywheels. And in a second, he was pulled in. Apparently, this happened really fast.
Sure.
And luckily for him, as soon as he screamed, this engineer who was in the room heard it. He turned around, shut the machine off. And then a bunch of people in the factory who also heard it, they came running. And they thought he was dead, but once they came up to him, they realized that he was still breathing. So on the descriptions I read, if you can imagine, his left arm was pulled in, so he's like that.
Yeah.
But not only that, his arm was severed, so it had pulled it in and cut it, but it was still hanging on by a thread.
Oh.
And it pulled him in so far that it started to chew away at his jaw. So his jawbone was stuck in the teeth of this
So it was
machine.
like caught like this, pretty much.
With his head and his arm out.
Gosh.
And part of his leg, too.
Wow.
So, pretty intense. And he was still breathing through all of that. He didn't die immediately. So, eventually he died because the physicians just weren't able to repair what was broken.
Right.
And with injuries that bad, and in 1903, it's like, what could you do?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Medical crap back then was not the best.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Dang, that's so unfortunate.
I know. And it's just crazy to me that it's someone with the same job, got the same arm ripped off, and they both died.
You think they would have put like better safety precautions in after the first death?
Right.
Hey, buddy, don't wear loose sleeves. Just don't do this.
Hey, buddy, maybe turn off the machine if you're going to oil it.
Yeah. Or maybe they had to oil it while it was going.
Oh, maybe. Buckle up for story number 3.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. In this part of the factory, above the factory floor, there's this catwalk.
Mm-hmm.
And today it has like these safety guards on it. So if you were to slip, you wouldn't fall off. It's like 30, 40 feet suspended in the air.
Can you today access those?
Yes. I've walked on it.
So you can walk on them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they let you.
Okay.
And it's old, though. So I don't know how much you'd want to do it.
Well, I'm guessing after this story, I probably won't.
Probably not.
Okay.
So back in the day, this catwalk was just that. It didn't have any guardrails, nothing to hold on to if you slipped. It was just this long, narrow piece of metal that people would use to access different parts of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So this man named Charles Whitner was walking across this catwalk when a cloud of steam from a chemical pot below rose up and hit him. And they believe that the steam from the chemicals made him like really disoriented because, you know, like you're going to breathe it in, it's going to hit your eyes.
Right.
You know, it's probably not pleasant, whatever that was boiling in that pot below.
Yeah.
And in his confusion, he stepped off the catwalk and he fell into the pot of boiling chemicals.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And it's reported that there were signs that he was conscious enough to try to climb out of it, but the steel was so hot, he just like slid right down.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't find him for 2 hours. So by the time that they found him, his body was disintegrated into the chemicals because it had just been boiling for forever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
okay.
That's the story of Charles Whitner. And these are just 3 of the many, many deaths that have happened there.
Yep.
This place, it stood vacant for forever. So a bunch of murders have happened there. Mm-hmm. It's speculated that a kidnapper around like the 40s, 50s in Salt Lake would take his victims there.
Okay.
Lots of homeless people have been found inside, like overdosed, stuff like that. Train tracks run right next to it, and they're still working train tracks. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine that a lot of suicides happen there.
Right.
Because of the train.
Step in front of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a lot of deaths that happened on that property.
Oh my gosh.
But then in 2011, these people bought it. They gave it a facelift. They painted the outside. They turned it into Fear Factory. Now it's a yearly Halloween attraction.
Right.
Super cool.
I've yet to go there, even though I live in Utah. But
Same. I haven't gone for Halloween, but I have gone on a ghost tour of it.
that's right. You
Which
have.
is the second part of this story.
Okay, I know this story, and it's amazing. Yeah, your story has like spooked so many people because like every time I try and go to Fear Factory, like no one wants to go with me. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's actually haunted. Like I don't want to be around that." And I'm like, "You guys are freaking wimps." And then in the end, we don't go. But I do like to tell people your experience that you had there. So I'm excited for our listeners and viewers to hear it. So continue, please.
So, okay.
It's going to be so good.
When this happened, I was like so weirded out by it.
Mhm.
And looking back, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Did it happen? With like the years that have passed since I went there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I just got to go back
Yeah.
for my birthday a few years ago, which is over the summer. So Fear Factory's not doing its Halloween thing, but they still had all the decorations up, which is pretty cool.
Sure.
So for my birthday, I got tickets to go on a ghost tour there. And here's how it was set up. So you meet at the factory at 9:00 at night.
Mm-hmm.
They take you on a tour of the 3 separate locations, but they're all like involved with the factory. So there's the main factory, there's the silos where they would store stuff, and then there's the underground part of the factory. There's a bunch of tunnels underneath it, and it's all part of the same attraction too. And after that, they gave you free reign of the grounds until 2 a.m. So you could go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The doors were open. You could see anything you wanted to. Like, there's this really tall tower on it. I think it's the one with the burned man's face.
Yeah.
I was able to like climb up in there and get a view over the city. It was so cool.
Okay. Gosh, now I need to go do this.
I know. So, anyways, they have this one place. You probably remember it from the Ghost Adventures episode.
Probably.
It's called the Hell Silo.
Yes.
Okay, so we went inside of the Hell Silo, and
it's designed to look like hell, right?
yeah,
Okay.
like the
so-
inside of it is painted with flames and like these shadow figures, like with their arms up, like they're burning, and like
Okay.
all
yeah.
these demonic imagery things.
Painting a picture.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's kind of set up like a maze too. Like they have a bunch of walls inside of it, so you get lost in it super easy.
Okay.
So yeah. So my boyfriend is the one who took me to this for my birthday.
Now fiance.
Now fiance. And for some reason, I don't know if people just didn't want to go in the Hell Silo or if it was just like an awkward time. I don't remember, but when we walked in, it was just us two. And this silo is ginormous. So I'm like genuinely surprised it was just us who walked in. So we go inside, we're taking pictures. I have my EVP recorder. We're just walking around, looking at all the cool decorations that they still have left up. And then I got like, I got this really weird feeling once we got to the center of the maze. And you could tell it was the center because, you know, you look up, you can see the point of the silo.
Okay.
And I was just like, I don't like it in here. I think we should go. It was probably because it was all dark, by the way. You had to have a flashlight or else you didn't have light. Like none of the lights were on.
Okay. Pitch black.
Pitch black. And so we're just in there. We're walking around. I'm like, you know, let's go explore somewhere else. This is kind of freaking me out. And we start walking through the maze, and the more we're walking, like I start panicking. Like I can feel my heart starting to race, and you know, I've got like anxiety, but this was different. It just felt different.
Right.
And for some reason, I became kind of like hysterical, if that makes sense. Like it freaked me out so bad.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were looking for the door. We couldn't find it. We're going through this maze, and it's like, we were just here. Why can't we find it? And we were making all the wrong turns. Eventually, we find a door, and I'm like so relieved. I ran up to it. I went to open the door, and it was padlocked shut. Come to find out later, it was the wrong door on the opposite side of the silo.
Oh,
and
so
they keep that one locked.
Right.
But in my mind, I don't know if I was just like, someone locked us in, because I was already in such a panic state.
Mm-hmm.
I started crying. I was like freaking out for no reason. Eventually, after what seemed like forever, we made our way out of there and we found the door to get out. Again, I was relieved. The door said exit on it. I went to go pull it open. I still can't figure out why this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So to get inside, you walk through the door. You think to go out, you have to open it the same way. Mm-hmm. So I pulled on it. The door, I swear it was pulled back from the other side. Like every time I try to open it, it would just go back. Like there was resistance on this door.
So it felt like someone was pulling on it for the opposite side, like pulling.
Almost, or maybe it was just like
pushing it shut while you're trying to pull it open.
That's what it felt like. There was definitely resistance. And I just don't know if I was like so panicked. I was like pushing on a pull door kind of thing, but I was freaking out.
But for the sake of the story, there was something.
There was a ghost
pulling on. Yeah. And
so eventually we somehow got out of there. It's kind of a blur for me at this point. Mm-hmm. But right as we opened the door, there was a tour guide. And she was like, "Are you okay?" Because at this point, like, I'm a mess. I am like hysterical. I can't breathe. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know what happened in there. I am freaking out. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened in there. Something just didn't feel right. I needed to get out. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, that happens."
It's fine. It just happens
it just
all the
happens.
time.
She said that's a very big hotbed of activity in there.
Yeah.
That they see a lot of things in there, like shadows. They hear a lot of noises.
This is all in the hell silo, right?
All in the hell silo.
Okay.
Yeah. There's 2 more parts to this place too.
Well, are you going to answer? You're going to say why it's so crazy in there? Because I know why.
Tell us why.
So this is all from the Ghost Adventures episode. So yes, Ghost Adventures went and did an episode at the Fear Factory, and it's intense. I recommend you guys check it out on Travel Channel. But Ghost Adventures pay us. But there's a scene in the episode where they're talking with the actor who plays Satan in that part of in the hell silo, in that part of the haunted house. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, one day I was walking into work and there's like this section of junk, I guess, that's like, it's supposed to like, it's a part of the haunted house, but it looks like just a pile of junk. And he like found this random book and he looked inside and it just had these random writings. And so he was like reading out of this book as he's playing Satan while people are walking through through the attraction. Reading on the job. But he's like reading it out loud. Like he's Satan reading these like, chanting whatever. Like being creepy. Yeah, okay. Exactly. He's chanting like what's in this book. Come to find out, it's a book that like summons demons and Satan. So wonderful. Yeah. So Ghost Adventures kind of look at this guy like, "Are you stupid? You're stupid." So I don't know. That's probably part of it. It's probably the guy opened up some portals in that silo. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. This place is crazy. Like, yeah, it has a weird history. It's insane. On part of the tour, they told us that there's 80 documented deaths that happened within the factory. So this is anything from workers to murders to just crazy stuff. Suicides, all that. Suicides. Yeah. But they think it's more because not all suicides are documented and reported, and not all homeless deaths that happen inside make it to the news. No one knows who they are. They're just people who had lived inside. Sure. Yeah. And maybe if it did get to the news, it was probably like a homeless person found dead. Like unidentified. In other news, a dog was found, and yeah. Exactly. So they think it's at least 80 for sure. Mm-hmm. But double that. Okay, so 160 to be safe. Mm-hmm. Yep. We went down into the underground tunnels. And on the tour, they told us that this spot of the factory is really creepy for a lot of people because they would like get touched. They would see figures like
up ahead of them, because it's just these like thinner, dark, black tunnels, and so you can't really see too much because it turns and it turns and it turns. So, I don't know. It's just a weird vibe. It's that underground smell. There's cockroaches down there.
It's an old building.
It's an old place.
That, yeah.
Yeah. We're down there alone again, and my boyfriend wandered in front of me, and we kind of like separated, not by too much to the point where I couldn't see him, but just like a little bit of space. And at one point he turns around and goes, I don't know what I saw, but I think I saw a red thing up ahead, and it kind of looked like the shape of a person.
Uh-oh.
He was like, it was just kind of this red outline of something, and then it was gone. And so I was like, are you kidding me? We're down here alone.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we did a whole EVP session down there. We were asking a ton of questions and didn't get anything in response. However, we had one of those EMF detectors, electromagnetic field detector. Mm-hmm. And it lights up whenever it hits a spot of electric activity.
Right.
On Ghost Adventures, they believe that ghosts can kind of like communicate through it, their energy. So we had that going. And this factory's off. Like, none of the lights are on. It's the middle of summer. It's hot, And the lights on it would, like, flash up and down a lot. And then the battery on it would go up and down a lot, too. Like...
So something was sucking the energy out of it.
It was weird.
Or fluctuating the energy.
Yeah,
or
like,
something.
The battery level, it would show this much, and 2 seconds later it'd be, like, almost dead, and it would jump back up. I don't know if it was faulty.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know if it was... a ghost.
That's weird though.
But it happened in the tunnels. It didn't happen anywhere else. It was just down in the tunnels. Mm-hmm. So that was about it for the tunnels. And then in the factory, we got to walk across that same catwalk that the employee fell off of.
Wow.
And there's no pot below it, but there's now like I think it's like a chain link fence, or maybe there's like a guardrail. I can't remember, but they have a bunch of chains hanging off of it. As part of the decoration. And on the tour, they said that people often hear those chains moving on their own and footsteps walking across that catwalk.
Is it George or whoever?
I don't know if it's George. It could be Charles.
Charles, yeah. Yeah. It's one of the three. It's all three of them. They're probably out there just hanging out.
Just having a little party.
Yeah, just having a drink.
Yeah.
Watching people get scared.
Yeah. Why not? If I was a ghost, I'd go there.
Crazy. Wow.
So we didn't experience that, but that was just kind of a weird experience to walk on that same catwalk and be like, wow, years ago, this didn't have any rails. I can see how someone would fall off. It was very thin. Like, 2 people could walk past each other, squeeze past each other at most. You know?
That's bigger
Easily
than I thought it
fall
would
off.
be, though.
Yeah.
But
Still.
Wow.
So then, after we were done exploring, it's 2 a.m. They ask us all to like reconvene in the main office. And the main lady leading the tour, she's like, does anyone have evidence to share with us? And some people had gotten pictures of what they thought were like orbs. Some people got EVPs, like whispers. I swear I got an EVP with a whisper.
I've heard it.
Yeah.
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 Do you still have it?
I do.
We'll have to play it for you guys one of these times, but...
Yeah.
Remind me what it says.
You can't tell what it says.
Oh, I thought it said, like, I'm here or something like that.
No.
Oh, okay.
So we had been asking questions, and then, I don't know, you just hear like a whisper on it. And we were told not to whisper when we're recording with our EVP, because then we can mistake it.
Sure.
But
confused.
So no one was whispering.
Right.
Yet there's a whisper on it, and it sounds like a woman, and I can't tell what she's saying. That's the story of Fear Factory. 80 documented deaths.
At least.
At least.
Maybe one day in this next life, we'll be able to know the for sure number. Do a little rewind button on the mortal monitor.
Yeah.
And see what really happened. All those things that went down there. Now we really want to go for this Halloween.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to do that ghost tour now. Would you be open to doing it again?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they do it over
the summer.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're doing it right now too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm spooked.
I'm thoroughly spooked.
Good.
I hope you're souped.
And spooked. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for listening.
We're so glad you could join.
It's been fun. We'll catch you on the next one, okay?
See you guys. Have a
See you
good
later.
one.
Bye-bye.